This lecture for Public Administration 6123, Economic Development at East Carolina University, provides an overview of the three analysis techniques that are described in the class project assignment for the end of the spring 2017 semester. So in the course of this lecture, which will not be a very long lecture, we will overview the three different analysis techniques that are described in the assignment guide. First, the decision tree analysis technique, second, the SWOT analysis, and the third, the BEAR or BRE, the business attraction, retention, and expansion method of analysis. The assignment for the class project encourages students to use one or a combination of these analysis techniques in developing recommendations, developing conclusions as well as recommendations for the county that they choose in terms of fostering and growing economic opportunity. Let us first take a look at the decision tree analysis method. This is probably something that you have seen a lot over the course of time. If you're someone who's worked in business, you've probably seen a lot. It's used a lot with risk analysis, but it's also used a lot just in general with decision-making processes, and we can kind of compare it very similarly to flow charts, but there's a little bit more of a method to it that I want to describe. It is a left to right progression in terms of how it is built. So it is built horizontally, not vertically. That's important to remember. We're talking left to right, not top to bottom. And it's a progression of decisions as well as consequences of those decisions. Whether a decision ends up with an actual result or creates a probability. And those decisions and the consequences are reflected in branches and nodes. The actual substance are identified by nodes, from the original decision or from the original activity all the way to the end result, where the branches reflects the decisions that can be made. With this model, you can accommodate in any given situation two or more variables of decision. So in other words, not every decision has to be yes or no or A or B. You can look at a variety of decision options that are available by use of the branch and node method. And these choices or decisions either lead to ends or fixed value nodes, or they lead to additional chance nodes that reflect an uncertainty to consider. So let's take a look at an example. And this has to do with, say, that you are building a building. You're a business, or you're in a case a government economic development agency, and you're in the process of building, let's say, a shell building. A lot of times economic development offices build these shell buildings to basically provide a manufacturer with space already developed. They kind of have a basic idea of a given size or square footage of building that a lot of different industrial clients may need for manufacturing or distribution. So they go ahead and build the building with at the right height, with the right utilities, and they go ahead and have that ready so that if they can say to a company, hey, we've already got your building built for you. All you got to do is outfit it and move in. So in the case, let's say that you had an economic development agency and they want to build a building, and they're deciding which contractor to use. They've got a budget, around $140,000, $150,000. They've got two different bids that come to them. One is a lower bidder than the other. And of course, when a government or a public agency is making a decision about a bid, they typically are looking at the lowest best bidder. So in this case, they've got a reliable high bidder that's kind of giving them a price that's in line with what they thought it was going to be. But they've also got a lower bidder who's perhaps a riskier bidder that has bid them at a significantly lower price. So the high bidder is at $140,000 and the low bidder is at $110,000. So in that case, they look at it from the standpoint of, you've got a $30,000 difference. However, they realize that there could be a potential problem. So you go to the next one and you say, well, what's the chances are that lower bidder, that riskier bidder, could be either on time or 3 months late? Well, they do their research, they look at the past projects, and they find that there's a 50-50 chance that they could be up to 3 months late on executing the project. And you determine, based on the value of the rent or the value of other values that you have with respect to that project, that extra 3 months could cost you upwards of $90,000 indirectly or directly, as the case may be, depending on the ability to recruit a client. And so as a result, there's a 50% chance with that bidder that you could end up with the total project cost being upwards of $200,000 or more. It could be 50. There's a 50% chance you could come in on time, in which case you're saving money. But there's also a chance you could be equal chance you could be 3 months late, in which case it costs you 200. Whereas with the other bidder, there's a 90% chance based on research that they come out on time, locking it in at $140,000, and that a month late, they might be a month late. There's about a 10% chance of it. So yeah, there may be some cost to that at $170,000, but you still, more than likely, you look at the odds and you go, you know what? The better option based on this decision tree would be to go with the on-time reliable bidder, because you have a higher probability of being on time and being within your budget as a result of it in terms of the total cost, direct and indirect, of the given project. SWOT is another analysis technique that many of y'all have probably seen. If any of you have ever done internal strategic planning with an organization, or in some of you have ever done self-analysis as part of your job performance evaluation, you've probably seen a SWOT. And it's an identification and observation exercise that looks at internal and external positives and negatives. On the internal side, we look at the positives, we call them strengths, and we look at the weaknesses as negatives as weaknesses. And that's you looking internally, either within yourself or within your organization. If we were looking at it with respect to a region economically, we would be looking at it from the standpoint of what are the strengths and weaknesses, or the positives and negatives that a given location, say a county or a development district or a particular location we're evaluating, possess themselves. What do they have? What is it that they possess, and is it a strength or is it a weakness? A strength would be the advantages you have with respect to logistics, close to roadways or close to water or railways. Could be availability of land, could be low tax rates, could be available incentives. But the weaknesses could be challenges, such as if you are looking at advanced manufacturing and you don't have the competent workforce, that could be a negative. If you have some challenges with not enough available land, say you did not have a mega site and you wanted to go into heavy manufacturing, that would be a negative, or a weakness as the case may be. Then on the external side, it's really looking at the external environment, the environment that is around you, and seeing, okay, what are the opportunities, or where is it on the outside that we have a chance or an opportunity or a positive that we can connect to as a location. At the same time, what are the threats? And we'll show an example of what those threats are here in a moment. But the opportunities and threats reflect positives and negatives in the external environment. This is an element. SWOT analysis is a very common element of developing community economic development strategies, or the SEDS plans. Very important in the development of those plans moving forward. So, giving you another example, again, this kind of looks, a lot of times a SWOT is a 4-box chart that starts in the upper left with opportunities, then goes to, starts upper left with strengths, then weaknesses to the right, so it's SW left to right, and then below that OT, opportunities and threats, below it. So that's another example, kind of to show you some of the definitions to look at. And then here's an example of one for a business. And you can see here their strengths. They have knowledge, and they have a good process with building relationships, as well as a strong history as an organization. But their weaknesses are they not necessarily are able to match up with competitors on price or volume, and also have challenges with advertising. With other companies don't have the advertising budget. The opportunities they have is possibly to provide training to customers, as well as better service, because they may be a premium product. But then they also have threats that are from the outside, say as the ability to get their product out in market. In this case being with an electronics product, it may be how do we sell our product in an environment where we can actually get sales, and because of the threat of the way the market works overall. This is a big challenge now for a lot of manufacturers, because they have to figure out ways to make their products more enticing as the retail environment changes. Not all manufacturers and not all product lines are necessarily doing well selling online. That's a big challenge. Not everything sells as well on Amazon as it does sold in a physical store. A lot of times people, when they're buying online, are simply looking at price, because to them it's like, do they really care about the quality is the quality that much better for a premium name as opposed to a less premium name? And when you go on a site like Amazon, where you can compare everything on the basis of multiple different components such as price, quality, by reviews, other factors, the question is really, do companies that have more established names really have that much of a strength, or is that actually a threat to them? Not an opportunity being able to sell online, but is online becoming a threat to them and being able to put their products out there? It's too early to tell with respect to that. Now, let's look at the third analysis technique, and this one doesn't necessarily lend itself to a model or to a visual example. It's more of just an approach to how you think about how you want to develop your analysis, and that is through what they call BEAR. And BEAR really ties back into the actual practice of economic development. BEAR stands for Business, Attraction, Retention, and Expansion. So really, when you're working in economic development with industrial clients or service clients or major clients, what you're really looking at trying to do is attract business, retain business, and expand business. You want to bring new businesses to your community or region. You want to retain those that come here and stay there, or that are built there. And then hopefully with whoever's here, you want to see them expand and grow locally in your area. And that kind of takes a lot of different, requires a lot of different sources of information. It involves building a data set. All of you in the course of this class have built a data set for your respective counties. You have your sectoral shares, you have your location quotients, you have that information. You have information about jobs with respect to salaries and with respect to payroll. You also have the ability to do additional research. You can kind of see what's out there, and you can kind of see what are the emerging industries out there. You can look at national and state employment trends, and where are those industries of growth, and can you possibly look at connecting with emerging industries in your given market. And when you are able to identify what those emerging industries are, or where your potential for growth is, then it's taking a look at what we've studied, looking at your text and looking at other sources, and identifying those strategies, whether they be incentives, the development of industrial clusters that focus on particular sectors, workforce development being critical, especially here in Eastern North Carolina. What are the strategies that you can use and that you can implement that have the potential of attracting, retaining, or expanding a business? And where do you see yourself with each of those fields? Obviously in a lot of cases, economic developers try to focus their attention on given sectors. They're not trying to just hit anything that'll come to them. They're trying to market themselves based on their strengths. This can tie very easily back into SWOT analysis, in my opinion. So if you do your SWOT and you kind of identify where your strengths and your opportunities are, and you also want to have an awareness of where those weaknesses and threats are, you can tie that back into your information on your data, and then build from that some ideas about attracting, retaining, and expanding business in the location that you've selected. So this has given us a chance now to look at all three of the different analysis techniques that we have for the class project assignment. You're more than welcome to ask me questions if you need to during a Q&A session or by email. So thank you very much for listening in, and certainly the links that are provided in your assignment guide will provide you with some additional information. Thank you very much.